In a spectacle that mirrored the harsh desert sun of Coachella, California, former President Donald Trump delivered yet another infamous speech, this time leaving a trail of confusion, controversy, and even physical collapse in his wake. With the temperature soaring over 100 degrees, the speech quickly turned into a catastrophe, as attendees began passing out in the sweltering heat before Trump even took the stage. Despite his grandiose claims of a record-breaking crowd, the reality was far more bleak, with the audience dwindling and faltering amid Trump's bizarre and often incoherent remarks. As Vice President Kamala Harris continues to surge in the polls, particularly in her home state of California, Trump appears to be flailing under the pressure, his Coachella meltdown serving as a stark reminder of his struggle to remain relevant in an increasingly hostile political landscape. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers, but we can't do it without you. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe right now. And if you're already subscribed, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment to let me know your thoughts. All right, let's dive right into it. Heat strikes the crowd before Trump even speaks. Before Donald Trump took to the stage, a scene of chaos was already unfolding among his supporters. With temperatures surpassing 100 degrees, people began passing out from heat exhaustion, forcing medics to intervene. It was a disastrous start to what was supposed to be a major rally in California, a state where Trump has long struggled to gain ground. Even as attendees collapsed around him, Trump seemed oblivious to the dire conditions, continuing with his usual rhetoric. He would later claim that there were 100,000 people in attendance, a claim that was quickly debunked by aerial footage showing a much smaller crowd. As Trump began speaking, his troubles only deepened. Struggling with his words, he tried and failed to pronounce deflate while addressing inflation, a moment that immediately became fodder for his critics. "We are going to take inflation, and we are going to deflate it," Trump declared, stumbling over the word as the crowd, noticeably smaller than his claim, looked on with confusion. This was just the beginning of a speech that would go down as one of his most baffling and controversial yet. False crowd claims and delusional boasts. Throughout the rally, Trump's delusional self-promotion was on full display. Despite clear evidence to the contrary, he repeatedly insisted that there were over 100,000 people in the crowd. "Tomorrow, here's the only problem. We have like 100,000. We have a lot of people. In Butler last week, we had 101,000, he boasted, attempting to conflate past rallies with the current dismal turnout. The truth was far from Trump's narrative, with multiple sources reporting a far smaller audience, more in line with the dwindling support he's seen across California. In typical Trump fashion, he shifted from praising himself to making outlandish threats. He turned his attention to California Governor Gavin Newsom, warning that he would withhold emergency aid to the state, specifically fire relief funds, unless Newsom complied with his demands. "We'll force it down his throat, and we'll say, 'Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have,'" Trump threatened, once again attempting to use disaster relief funds as political leverage, a move that has drawn widespread condemnation in the past. Trump's battle with reality, lies about California's energy grid. Trump's disdain for California didn't stop with Newsom. He went on to falsely claim that the state experiences daily blackouts and brownouts, painting a dire picture of a failing energy grid. "Isn't it crazy you guys have brownouts, blackouts? California has brownouts and blackouts every weekend, every day," he said, in a blatant distortion of the truth. The reality is far different, with California's energy issues being far more complex and not nearly as frequent as Trump implied. The speech quickly veered into the absurd as Trump began praising China, a country he has consistently criticized throughout his political career. He claimed that China never paid the United States 10 cents before he took office, asserting, "I don't think they liked me, but actually I like them." In an unusual twist, Trump expressed admiration for President Xi Jinping, calling him a brilliant leader and praising his authoritarian rule over 1.4 billion people. He rules it with an iron fist, Trump said, adding, "The worst people are the enemies from within," before launching into a tirade against California Congressman Adam Schiff, whom he called a sleazebag and a major lowlife. Trump's obsession with personal insults, Chris Christie, and fat shaming. The rally then took a turn toward Trump's usual personal attacks, with former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie becoming the latest target of his insults. Trump repeatedly referred to Christie as a fat pig, a grotesque moment that was met with awkward laughter from the crowd. At one point, a heckler shouted the insult from the audience, and Trump, pretending to defend Christie, sarcastically chastised the heckler for being very rude. "We're going to have to throw you out if you do it again," Trump said, before smugly adding, "But he is not a fat pig." This moment further cemented Trump's reputation for cruelty, particularly when it comes to body shaming those he perceives as enemies. Threats to protesters and bizarre historical references. The speech continued its downward spiral as Trump appeared to address a protester in the crowd, telling her to go back to mommy, before ominously suggesting that she's going to get the hell knocked out of her. His supporters erupted in cheers, underscoring the increasingly hostile atmosphere at his rallies. As if the night couldn't get stranger, Trump then veered into a bizarre monologue about Abraham Lincoln, one that made little sense and left many in the audience scratching their heads. "We used to have the greatest, Abraham Lincoln George," Trump said, failing to finish the thought as he rambled incoherently about former American presidents. The Alien Enemies Act. Trump's disturbing plan for migrants. Perhaps the most disturbing moment of Trump's speech came when he invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a law historically used to target immigrants based on their nationality. Trump announced that he would use the law to launch Operation Aurora, a plan to deport migrants and imprison those who return to the United States for a minimum of 10 years, with the possibility of the death penalty for repeat offenders. "If that doesn't work, it'll be 20 years. And if that doesn't work, I guess it's going to be the death penalty," Trump declared, to the shock of many. This statement marked a new low in Trump's already controversial stance on immigration, drawing parallels to some of the darkest chapters in American history. Misogyny and racism. The Willie Brown remark. The rally also featured a moment of overt misogyny when someone in the crowd shouted out the name Willie Brown during Trump's discussion of Vice President Kamala Harris. Brown, a former mayor of San Francisco and Harris's former romantic partner, has long been used by Trump and his allies to demean Harris. Trump found the remark hilarious, allowing the crowd's laughter to spread, as he stood on stage laughing for nearly 40 seconds. "This can only happen in California," Trump quipped, feeding into the crowd's misogynistic undertones without saying much at all. Trump's warped view of the economy and race relations. As if the speech couldn't get any worse, Trump pivoted to claim that migrants were taking jobs from African Americans and Hispanic Americans, a tired and false narrative that has been debunked time and time again. "These people coming in are taking the jobs of African Americans that have had it a long time," he said, suggesting that unemployment rates were skyrocketing for Black and Hispanic Americans because of immigration, a baseless claim designed to stoke racial division. Donald Trump's speech at Coachella will undoubtedly go down as one of his most disastrous public appearances, from the sweltering heat causing fainting in the crowd to his nonsensical and dangerous rhetoric. His incoherent statements, false claims, and bizarre admiration for authoritarian leaders only served to alienate him further from the American people, particularly in California, a state that has long been out of his reach politically. As Vice President Kamala Harris continues to rise in the polls, Trump's Coachella meltdown may very well signal the beginning of the end for his political ambitions. While Trump continues to rile up his base with inflammatory speeches, the reality is that his support is dwindling, his grip on reality slipping, and his relevance in the political arena fading fast.